swap this over. Wow. Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be making these cyanotype prints. These are a really awesome way to make pictures, and I really enjoyed making them. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Time to film an awesome video. So let's start by reading the instructions. Instruction 1. Fill both containers with water to create stock solutions A and B. Shake until powder is fully dissolved, and then for best results, wait 24 hours before using. So I guess I'll see you guys in 24 hours then. Okay, so here's our image, and we're going to have to do two things to prepare it for making the negative. The first thing is we're going to have to grayscale it. And this will just give us kind of a rough idea of what the final image is going to look like and make sure nothing weird happens. So once we've grayscaled it, then we have to invert the colors of it because we're making a negative of the picture. So everything has to be opposite. So it'll look like this when you invert the colors. It'll look a bit weird, but that's how it needs to be. Okay, so our second step then is to print our image. So to do this properly, to make a negative, I bought some clear inkjet film. And I had to buy inkjet because I have an inkjet printer. If you have a laser printer, you need clear laser printer film. But basically what you do is you just print your negative onto this film, and then you end up with this right here, which, I mean, it's really good. And then it needs to be see-through so that obviously the light can get through to expose the picture on your paper. Here's what they look like on the table. Unfortunately, it looks like this one printed with a couple of stripes in it, so I don't have a ton of this paper, so I'll try reprinting it and we'll see how that goes. This one came out pretty good though. You can see the negative looks really good. Measured it and it should fit on the paper, so hopefully we'll be able to get this one to work. Okay, so the basic idea of how we're going to make this is we take a sheet of acrylic and we put it down to use as a back plate. Then we take a sheet of paper and put it on the acrylic, and this paper will have our cyanotype compound on it. Then we take our negative and we put it over top of the paper, and finally one last sheet of acrylic goes over top of that. And then I have a couple of these clamps to put on either end, and then you stick it in the window. These chemicals are very sensitive to light, so I'm just going to describe what I'll be doing to prep the paper. What you do is you take 50% of part A of the solution, which is potassium ferrocyanide, and you combine it with 50% of part B of the solution, which is ferric ammonium citrate, in just like a small container. And then you take just like a little brush applicator thing, you dip it in, and you paint it all over your paper. And then after you've done that, you take something like a clothespin and you just hang it up to dry. And then once it's dry, you can put the negative on it and expose it to sunlight, and you'll get your picture. I'm attempting to expose the first one. It's a really dim day outside though, so the kit says it takes 5 to 30 minutes. Judging by how dim it is, I'm going to give it the full 30 minutes, and then I'll see what that does. While I'm waiting for that one to expose, I'll explain the next steps. I've just got a metal tray full of water, and then I'm also going to need a second tray that I'll fill with hydrogen peroxide. And basically what you're going to do is you take the exposed image, you put it in this tray, and then you just gently, you'll do something like this to wash it, and you'll do that for about 5 minutes, and then you transfer it to the tray with the hydrogen peroxide in it, and that should expose it instantly. Otherwise, you have to leave it sit outside for 24 hours after washing it with the water, and that would also expose it. Okay, here's what attempt number 1 looks like. I ended up leaving it for about 40 minutes just to be extra sure. I'll start by overexposure maybe and see how it turned out. This is really cool. I didn't think it'd turn out this good, but you can't really see it on camera as much, but you can really see all of the details from the picture. It's amazing. Okay, there's 5 minutes. So I'm going to transfer this into the peroxide, which I've marked with black tape so I don't get it confused. So just swap this over. Wow. There we go. It might be a bit overexposed, which, I mean, I overkilled it on purpose just to make sure that would work. Okay, so it says after the peroxide, we rinse it and dry it. So I'm just gonna transfer it back to the original water bath, and hopefully that'll count as enough of a rinse. I think it's just to, this should be just to neutralize the peroxide. So there we go. Image number 1. It's a little hard to tell from the picture, but you can see it kind of came out maybe a little overexposed and blurry. But all in all, it looks really good. When it was in the water bath, it looked a lot clearer. So I know it can come out clear. I think it was just the exposure process made it blurry. So obviously I just got to play around with my timing. Okay, attempt number 2. This one looks like it came out a little underexposed, because you can see attempt number 1 compared to attempt number 2. Attempt number 3 is up there now. The other thing to note is as I go along, it's getting closer and closer to noon and then the afternoon, so the exposure time is going to change throughout the day. So hopefully I can get it right. So here's what a day of cyanotype printing looks like. Which, oddly enough, this is the first one I did, this is the third one, and those are 2 of the best ones. And this is the 5th one. I think most of the issues came from just like going through the day. I think the chemical on the paper got a little bit old, because you can see this is what it starts to look like as you start to use the paper towards the end of the day. I started at like 10:30, and then I'm right now it's 5 o'clock and I've got 3 more sheets of paper, but I'm using them and they're starting to come out like this. So I think it's a good idea to use your paper almost as soon as it's dry and then just make a little bit at a time. Day 2 is yielding some very promising results. I basically have cut the washing down to 0. I put the pages into the water bath, and then I just kind of wait until it looks like no more blue's coming up and out of them, and I don't wash it back and forth, and then I immediately transfer it to the peroxide. So I'm hoping that kind of locks in the pictures. So I ran into an issue with leaving them to dry flat, where you get these these puddles that form and they leave yellow marks onto what would otherwise be a good image. The solution I came up with was just cover a sheet of cardboard in some saran wrap and then use clothespins to hold them in place while they're drying. This turns out really good. You can still get good images drying them flat. You just have to make sure there's no puddles that form. And there we go. Here's all of the prints that I made. Here, these four on the left are all from the first batch that I did. So it was a lot of playing around with exposure times, and they do have kind of some blurry bits, but that got fixed later. The second day of printing, where I had these two, which are, if you have the film come off just a little bit above the image, this is what you get. But I did also get a couple of really nice ones that were just a tad overexposed. And then the last day, I got the best ones, just because I'd refined the process.